Mercy and blessings from the owner of all peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you.
Yes.
And I started off like that because, when I think about this case that ran over us with its spiked wheels, I often called it now a love story between God and his people. I want you to consider that when they built the fire to consume us, let me get those mics up there. Hold up. I want this to be heard. I want this to be broadcast. When they built the fire to consume us, they forgot the owner of the heat. I got my wife by my side. We woke up this morning, and even though it was a gloomy day, the sun was still shining above the clouds. I got my family here with me.
That is, of course, Yusef Salaam. My niece Camille was so happy to meet him a couple of months ago at the NMPA's Leadership Awards. She was so thrilled, and now today he is thrilled that he is a New York City councilman. Think about that. An exonerated 5. Donald Trump is on trial, and Yusef Salaam is on city council in a city that's about to evict all of Trump's businesses and residents permanently. That is something else, isn't it? Full circle, as they said. We're going to talk about that as voters across the country cast their vote in Kentucky, uh, Virginia. An outcome in Virginia. Of course, Daniel Cameron, many are tweeting and posting their joy over his defeat yesterday. He's, of course, we all know Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General who refused to go after the cops in the Breonna Taylor case, who many say hindered that investigation. Daniel Cameron also backed by Trump and Mitch McConnell, but lost to the current governor, the incumbent governor of that state. And as we said, of course, Yusef Salaam winning his race. Senate Republicans also has issued a demand to the White House that includes a set of restrictive changes to U.S. asylum laws, including a rule that would render migrants ineligible for asylum if they transited through a third country without seeking refuge before reaching American soil. Migrants would only be allowed to request protection at official ports of entry. Tell you more about that and how they're trying to hold hostage whether or not the government continues to operate after next week with this shutdown looming. And a brand new poll out yesterday shows that the child of Camelot, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is leading both Trump and Biden in 6 key battleground states among younger voters. What a change of events there. And Tyler Perry talks about Maxine's baby. Yeah, Maxine was the name of his mother. And that's a new documentary that's being released next week by Tyler Perry's longtime partner, Jalila Beckley. Yeah, he talked tearfully about this documentary. He said he had nothing to do with it, only he knew cameras was on him for the last decade. And of course, Rashida Tlaib was censured by Republicans and some Democrats in the House yesterday for her comments on the Palestinian situation. But first, of course, the big election night, all the sound and fury around Tuesday's elections, there was one clear signal. Abortion rights and remain politically popular no matter where or when it's on the ballot. And that, no matter how you slice it, turned out to be good news for Democrats as the parties plot their strategies ahead of the 2024 election. Governor Glenn Youngkin, the Virginia Republican who believed he could crack one of the most intractable issues in American politics with the promise of, quote, reasonable abortion restrictions, will not lead a GOP-controlled legislature in the Commonwealth, which denied the party control of the state Senate and put a swift end to both his plans for a 15-week abortion ban and rumors he might pursue a 2024 presidential bid. Meanwhile, voters in Ohio decisively said they wanted a constitutional protected right to abortion with the passage of a ballot measure only a few months after they rejected another measure that would have made it harder for them to shield abortion rights. And in Kentucky, as we mentioned, the Democratic governor defeated his Republican challenger, a state attorney general with close ties, of course, to Trump and McConnell. That campaign, too, centered on abortion rights. But retaining control of the Virginia State Senate completed a hat trick of invigorating results for the Democratic Party, who had endured a dispiriting week with multiple polls, including a new one from CNN and a new one from the New York Times, Siena College, that showed President Biden facing an uphill battle against the twice impeached, 4 times indicted former president if they were to go head-to-head next year. Most likely they will. The Glenn Youngkin bandwagon certainly ran off the rails on Tuesday. Voters said, no, thank you. We're not interested. but it all centered around abortion. Those were the key issues. Even as we mentioned with Andy Beshear in Kentucky, winning his second term over Cameron. Cameron, of course, whew, what a he was upset. Daniel Cameron's been upset, been voicing, not just saying he's upset, but obviously um, showing how upset he was with the label. There was ads that was calling him Uncle Daniel, and he was so upset. And then he invoked. He says because of his being a conservative doesn't make him an Uncle Tom. Um, and I think he just totally missed the boat with that, because that's not why they were calling him Uncle Tom. I think a lot of Black people in the political realm and a lot of Black voters, if you talk to them, you might find a lot of conservatives or conservative attitudes around African American voters. But what they did not stand for was this guy who was obvious and proud of it somehow to be a puppet of Trump and McConnell, which is interesting because behind closed doors, while they will publicly support each other, McConnell and Trump can't stand each other. So Power 96 says, I bet Daniel Cameron is crying like Stephen from the Django. And Austin is watching this morning. Of course, he says Cameron can shed all of his loser tears in the lap of Uncle Clarence Thomas. You see, he can't shed that uncle label. Mike B is asking, is it me or does Cameron look just like Willis from different? No, he does. What you talking about, Willis? He does look like Willis from Different Strokes, Mike V. Another election note, Sherelle Parker, a longtime state and local elected official who promised Philadelphia residents that she would aggressively tackle the city's crime problems, was elected mayor, the first Black woman elected mayor, the first woman elected mayor in the city of brotherly love. And of course, Yusef Salaam, as you saw at the top, the exonerated Central Park 5 member, he easily won on Tuesday, completing what is a stunning reversal of fortunes decades after he and 4 others were wrongfully jailed, wrongfully convicted in the infamous rape case. He's a Democrat. He's going to represent a Central Harlem district on the city council, having run unopposed in the seat after winning earlier this year in the primary. Yeah, David says that Daniel Cameron was trying to set up the seat for after McConnell. But Yusef won his primary in a landslide, and then, of course, cruised to victory last night in the general election. The victory comes, of course, 2 decades after DNA evidence was used to overturn the convictions of the exonerated 5. And of course, we know that Donald Trump took out a full-page ad at the time. The Citizen, Donald Trump, took out a full-page ad in New York papers saying that they should be put to death. Yusef Salaam and his 4 friends should be put to death. And once they were exonerated, Trump doubled down. He still said they should be put to death. And now, as Trump sits in a courtroom in New York every day, scowling at the judge, scowling at the clerk, scowling at the attorney general, and his son gets on the stand yesterday, and every court watcher said that Eric Trump repeatedly perjured himself. And it was so interesting because during Eric Trump's testimony, there's cameras in the courtroom. And during his testimony, the camera, while he was talking, happened to pan to Letitia James, the attorney general, who was, I don't want to say she was smiling, because it was more than smiling. It was almost laughing. She was almost laughing at the testimony and listening to the various experts, they said that her reaction was, "Oh, I got him. He keeps perjuring himself." And in fact, the judge even interjected a couple of times, asking the defense lawyers, "Do you want to ask him that question again?" When the judge does that, the judge is saying, "Listen, I'm giving you a chance to save your client from perjury." Mike V says he calls it MAGA mean mugging. In New Orleans, thank you, Power 96, they elected the first female mayor, uh, and the Republicans has made her life hell, he says. They even tried to recall her. Yeah, of course. But congratulations is in order, I guess, for those who are fans of Yusef Salaam, who are watching the New York City Council, particularly those up in Harlem, where he's going to represent that district. Yusef Salaam is now a city council. That is a stunning. It's stunning, and it's amazing. It really is, what this young man went through. You know, people could, again, we talked a bit about this recently, but people can talk about, well, you know, they got paid. Their life was upended and changed forever. And the money that they got, a chunk of that is probably being used for counseling. You know, we, like I said at the top, my beautiful niece Camille got a chance to talk with him and really liked him at the NNPA's leadership award. But when you talk to him, he comes off really sharp guy, really easygoing, soft spoken. But you know, beneath all of that is the trauma of A, being falsely accused, B, being convicted, C, having at the time a very influential New Yorker, Donald Trump, call for your death. And then, of course, spending time in prison. So it's not about the money, folks, when it comes to that. I guess that's why we have folks come on and say, whether it's 5 million, 10 million, 40 million, it's just never enough. How much of his life he did not get to enjoy. So when you see him enjoying moments like that, you have to applaud and be happy for him that he is even alive. Well, you know, next week we're facing another deadline for a government shutdown, and the jockeying has already begun. First and foremost, it's up to the House, really. They haven't even put together a proposal, but the Senate Republicans said to President Biden, "You want funding for Ukraine? Well, here's the deal. They are seeking drastic limits on asylum and other immigration programs in an emergency funding package that the president requested that includes billions of dollars for Ukraine, Israel, and other national security priorities." This is based on a memo that they sent, a memo that Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, and James Langford outlined. They said that they wanted the president to go along with their border policy, the demands that they're making. They want an overhaul of the administration's $106 billion national security supplemental request, which they want to include bolstering security at the border, including building that infamous wall that Mexico was supposed to pay for, according to our former president. But what's interesting is that Biden himself resumed, or at least have sought funding himself to build a wall. Remember, we reported on that earlier this year, and it really it surprised some Democrats and it upset some Democrats. Senate Republicans, including McConnell, have indicated that Biden and Democrats would need to accept border policy changes for the supplemental agenda to pass. In a statement from the White House yesterday from Angelo Fernandez, who is a spokesman for the White House, he says that the administration just disagreed with many of the Senate Republicans' plans, but he added that the president was leaving the door open for a, quote, serious conversation about an immigration compromise. Democratic senators also rejected the proposal. Their demands include a set of restricted changes to U.S. asylum law, including a rule that would render migrants ineligible for asylum if they transit from through a third country without seeking refuge there before reaching American soil. Migrants would only be allowed to request protection at official points of entry. Those screened for asylum under the expedited removal process would have to meet a higher threshold during interviews to avoid being quickly deported. The plan would also revive Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, and it would require U.S. border officials to return all migrants to Mexico pending a review of their claims if they can't be deported or detained. It also would create a new authority similar to what used to be Title 42, which was pandemic related, that allowed immigration agents to summarily expel migrants if doing so was deemed necessary to achieve, quote, operational control of the southern border. They demand that they have a provision that demands that they would shut down programs that the Biden administration has set up to allow hundreds of thousands of migrants to enter the U.S. legally, with the purpose of discouraging them from crossing into the country illegally. The Humanitarian Parole Authority, the law that the Biden administration has invoked to run these programs, would be dramatically scaled back. The Republicans' plan also mirrors a bill known as H.R. 2 that the White House said it would veto. So they want to, in that bill, Republicans want to detain migrant families with children indefinitely and separate the parents and the kids again. That's what they did in slavery. Separated families. And David Youngblood says that Biden wants to complete a section of the wall. See, the problem, so David brings that up, and a lot of Democrats were so upset when Biden announced that he wanted to do that. And the problem, and David just makes it simple. He wanted to complete a section of the wall. We talk about this often on this program. At least our guests talk about it real often. The messaging. Democrats have a hard time messaging. So maybe, David, you should go work for them, because that just makes it very simple. Okay, he just wants to complete this. His son finished. Let me just complete this. And as far as the detaining these migrants, David says, sounds like cages to me. And that's what they did prior, right? Kids in cages. Wow. Well, amid a growing sentiment about a potential rematch between the 80-year-old President Joe Biden and this soon-to-be 78-year-old former President Donald Trump, a recent poll has unveiled a formidable third candidate. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has gained significant traction among voters under 45 in crucial swing states. The surprising twist in the 2024 presidential campaign also signals real concerns with Biden's age, but younger voters are also concerned with Trump's age. He's just 2.5 years younger than Biden. The poll, which the New York Times and Siena College conducted, revealed that it's a hypothetical one-on-one contest, that in a hypothetical one-on-one contest, Trump would beat Biden in 5 of the crucial battleground states that were critical for Biden's 2020 victory. Notably, the survey underscored a big shift in support among younger voters, with Kennedy emerging as a compelling independent challenger. For instance, across the swing states of Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Wisconsin, Kennedy commands a 34% support base among those 18 to 29 years old, and an additional, I should say, 31% among those between the ages of 30 to 44. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's figures stand at 29% and 30% respectively, which puts him well behind Kennedy, while Biden maintains 30% across both demographics, which puts him behind both Trump and Kennedy, with Kennedy leading in that category. Of course, Kennedy declared in September that he's an independent now. We had previously spoken with him for the Black Press of America, and he has said that part of his platform is to rectify environmental disparities, dismantle qualified immunity in law enforcement, and address the deep-seated racial inequities embedded within the American healthcare system. So we will see. We will see. It gets more and more interesting. The election results from yesterday. You got the folks on the Beltway trying to figure it all out. Power 96 says, no more Kennedys. No more Kennedys. And there's that Washington Times poll right there with Kennedy at 36%, 31% for Biden, 30% for Trump. And that's a Quinnipiac University poll with the Washington Times, or that the Washington Times reported on. Austin chimes in. He says RFK Jr. is an idiot. Mike V says, if your own family won't endorse, that should tell you something. And certainly we did that story too, that the siblings of RFK Jr. Have all come out to denounce his candidacy. And to take it a step further, Power 96 says, no more Kennedys, no more Bushes, no more Clintons, except for George Clinton. So Power 96 wants George. This is not the first time he's mentioned George Clinton. So I take it that when we get the election results next year, there's going to be a vote, a presidential vote for George Clinton. And folks, you all know who cast it. None other than the HBCU man himself, Power 96. Well, there's a new documentary on its way, and it's coming out on Amazon Prime next week. It's about the life of Tyler Perry. It's called Maxine's Baby, the Tyler Perry story. And I pause because, again, didn't mention the fact that Rashida Tlaib, the Democrat, was
5 minutes.
4.5
minutes, sorry.
It's okay. I'm the only Palestinian American serving in Congress, Mr. Chair, and my perspective is needed here now more than ever. I will not be silenced, and I will not let you distort my words. Folks forget I'm from the city of Detroit, the most beautiful, blackest city in the country, where I learned to speak truth to power even if my voice shakes. Trying to bully or censor me won't work, because this movement for a ceasefire is much bigger than one person. It's growing every single day. There are millions of people across our country who oppose Netanyahu's extremism and are done watching our government support collective punishment and the use of white phosphorus bombs that melt flesh to the bone. They are done watching our...
And with that, an overwhelming majority of Republicans and many Democrats joined them in censoring her for her comments. It's interesting that she becomes what, just the third congressperson in like 100 years.
Stop! No
gentlelady's
more.
time
no
has expired.
More. Ceasefire now, and she takes the death threats that you all send. That they.
The gentlelady is no longer recognized. The gentleman from Maryland.
To her, the desire to save lives is greater.
Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
That's what I said.
She said what she said.
We'll reserve.
The gentleman from Maryland reserves. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
It's such a divisive and hotbed issue, this situation in the Middle East. when folks are believing that they're making in their mind sound comments or justifications for either side, it's a problem. So as Mike V says, say it with your chest, sis. Yeah, she she was going at it, wasn't she, Mike? But it just goes to show you where things are now. There are some things that folks just don't have free speech on. And this is what and Power 96 says that it might backfire in Michigan because Biden only won it by a small amount there. And this is a concern, and this is probably why some of the Democrats went along with the Republicans in censuring her. They're afraid of the ramifications down the road. Of course, specifically 2024 presidential election. But again, it's an issue that folks will have to deal with because it's no longer freedom of speech when it comes to that, no matter what side of the aisle you sit on, no matter what side of the fence you sit on in that conflict there. So that the Congresswoman was just in a no-win situation there. She has those views. Those are her views. And she has to accept or live with the consequences of her views. So back to Tyler Perry. Madea. The documentary is named for Tyler Perry's mother, Maxine, who died in 2009 after a long illness. Tyler Perry said that it was Maxine who inspired him to become the multi-talented, billionaire star that he is known as today. He says, everything I did was about her. All the work was about her. I was never after money. It was always about making enough money to take care of her, to buy her medicine, to make sure we were never in poverty again. Tyler Perry says, no matter how much I had, it was never enough. When his mother died, Tyler Perry said all of that was gone, and the fight to regain his motivation was slow. He says it was like a car that ran on gasoline all of a sudden say, now you need diesel. He says, now my motivation has become watching all of the people who are coming into the studios, young, Black, everybody represented who has never gotten a chance in this business. That gives me the inspiration to keep going. Tyler's longtime partner, Jalila, made the film about his life. He said that he had no creative control over the documentary, which was an unusual position for the actor, producer, director, and of course, media mogul. He said that cameras followed him for 10 years to make the film. He says, it's not a story that I'm telling, it's my life. He added that he hopes his struggles and triumphs displayed in the film will inspire others. He says, if that happens, then it was all worth it for me. This film is scheduled for release on Amazon Prime on November the 17th. Tyler Perry. I didn't even know it was in the works. But now he's doing the rounds and letting everyone know that it's in the works. And also interesting too, because Tyler Perry is not only an actor, but he's a studio owner, which puts him, as the actor strike continues, on both sides of the equation. He's a boss and he's an employee. He's a studio owner and he's an actor. And his comments about that was that he just wants the best deal for everybody. Now that's politically correct, isn't it? Wow. Tyler Perry. So check out the film November 17th on Amazon Prime. Oh, Mr. Durrett is chiming in before we chime out. He says, so he will strike against himself and negotiate against himself. It's like he'll be on both sides. It's a comedy skit, right? He's on one side of the table, then he jumps to the other side. This is what I'm offering you. He jumps on the other side. No, I want this. Back and forth, Mr. Durrett. Maxine's Baby, the Tyler Perry story, debuts on the 17th of November. Folks, we are going to California. Fun in the sun, as they say. The Sacramento Observer will be observing its 60th anniversary on Friday. The Observer, as we mentioned before, is the National Newspaper Publishers Association's newspaper of the year, and Larry Lee is the publisher of the year. And it all coincides with their 60th anniversary gala on Friday night. I'm looking forward to it. Should be lots and lots of fun. It's black tie, so we're gonna have to spruce up. Put on some cologne, do some, eat some good food, I hope. Have a good drink and hit the dance floor and celebrate 60 years, the 60th anniversary of the Informant. And they're going to have this orchestra, and look at it. It's just going to be spectacular. Larry Lee, apparently he knows what he's doing out there in Northern California. Wow. So we're looking forward to that. Should be a fun time, and we will report on it. We will let you guys know how the Observer's 60th anniversary. We got papers that's the thing about the Black press, is that we have newspapers around the country that are celebrating big anniversaries every year. I think it was last year. Was it last year we went to the Afro's 130th, I believe it was, anniversary, 130 years. The Washington Informant next year celebrates 60 years. So we got some real senior papers in the Black press, in an age in which newspapers we all know, have been dying a very quick and painful death. The Black press continues to thrive with newspapers like the Sacramento Observer celebrating 60 years this Friday night. We'll tell you all about it in Sacramento. Thanks for joining us today. Have an enjoyable hump day, Wednesday. Thanks for joining us.